For starting off today's session, I really have a very, very important message to say, and that is displayed on the screen. It's a disclaimer. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So, hello everyone, and welcome to another insightful webinar, of course, on immigration and jobs talk show. I am Nipasa Pradhan, and I'm going to be with you for an hour from now. You know, and thank you so much. It's truly such a pleasure to have all of you join us wherever you have joined us from, whether on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Thank you once again, and we're especially delighted to welcome back the esteemed immigration attorney, Prashanthi Reddy. So, Prashanthi, it's always an honor to have you grace our show. Hello and welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
All good, all good. Been busy celebrating. I mean, it's Holi in India. Do you celebrate too?
Yes, we do. It's a more organized event in the US because of all the laws and all that. But yeah, they do have areas where communities come together and celebrate. So it's
Mhm.
really nice.
Nice, nice. Absolutely. And I hope that you're having a great day. And so are all the folks out there. And it's going to be a very, very interesting and informative session today, friends. Very important topic to discuss today, and that is H-1B success blueprint. And we'll get expert guidance on navigating the CAP filing process. So, definitely, we'll be delving into the complexities. We'll be very delighted actually to take up your questions. So, wherever you're watching, don't forget to ask your questions by commenting. And I think without further ado, let's kick off today's webinar then and unlock the secrets to H-1B success. So, Prashanthi, what would you like to tell the folks out there who have joined us? What can they expect today in this session?
So we know that registration period is done, and we're expecting the lottery results. Uh, I don't know. We were among us attorneys. We're betting that it might be Friday. It might be, it has to be before April 1st. So it might be Thursday. That's tomorrow, or it might be Friday that we can expect to get the results for the lottery. And once that happens, and then we can start filing as of Monday. An important, very, very important update for Monday, people who are filing their H1s, whether it be cap or non cap. A lot of things are changing coming Monday. So if you're filing your petition, if it is with reference to there are three things changing. One is the fees are going to be changing on April 1st. So if anybody is sending out their case and it's going to be received on April 1st, then you have to start sending it out with the new fee. And then the second is that the uh, addresses for sending out H1Bs is going to be changing. So all those cases that are not being sent online, or we know there's a new process, and that's new as well, that they've started where you can file your H1s online. So cap cases also can be filed online as of April 1st. So that's another change. But if you're not filing online, then it's important to note that all cases now are not going to be going to the service centers, but they're going to be going to lockbox facilities. So new addresses, new forms, new fees, everything is new. So please be careful sending out petitions even as of today, because they may, if they're received um, after the on Monday or after, then they might be returned back to you because they don't have the new fees or the new form, or uh, you know whatever it is. So there's a new addition for the form. Again, I'm saying the same thing. There's a new fee
Mhm.
for H1s, and the address that you send the H1s to, that is also changing. So please make sure that you update all this. For the address, it's the date that they actually receive it. So if they're going to be receiving something by April 1st, it has to be sent, or later, it has to be sent to the new addresses. For the fees and the new version of the form, it's the date that your case is postmarked. So the date that you
Mhm.
mail it. So if you're sending it by FedEx, the date that you create the envelope, I guess, is the postmark date. So please keep that in mind when you're sending out your new H1. So this is an important update.
Okay.
And people are
All
going
right.
crazy
So, folks,
about this. People are going
yeah.
crazy about this because now they're confused as to where to send their case if they send it today, because USCIS has removed, USCIS website has a page where they mention the addresses where to send what, depending on which
Mhm.
state your company is located. And they've removed that page, and they've put the updated page, even though you're still sending out cases to the old addresses as of today and tomorrow. So people now don't
Mhm.
know where to send out their case, and they're just, and a lot of people want to send out the case before April 1st, because then they have to send it out with the new fees. Who wants to pay the additional, increased fees if they can avoid it? And then they have to redo
Yes.
all the forms again if they wait. So they can't wait, but they're confused as to where to send out their address. So again, USCIS is famous for causing confusion, so they've managed to do it once again.
Well, I hope that the situation gets resolved ASAP and people know where to send their documents and their petitions, right? So hopefully it gets figured out soon. And for folks out there who have joined us just now, this is none other than Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. And Prashanthi, maybe you would like to tell folks out there a little bit about yourself. She has been practicing for over 25 years now, right, Prashanthi?
Yes. Uh, and I've also been lucky to be nominated as a super lawyer last year. And yeah, and I enjoy what I do. What more can I say? I think that's the biggest trait to have, enjoying the work that you do, because then you'll be forced to be good at it. So
You are good at it. All
thank
right,
you.
Prashanthi, let's go ahead. I mean, folks have already dropped some questions, and I think I should take them, before we get into ours.
Yeah.
This one is
Yes.
from Minnie. What's the salary requirement for H-1B cap exempt filing with a university?
Yeah. So the salary requirement is you don't have to pay the additional 750 $1,500. So there are different components of fees with the USCIS fees, and they like to make it complicated, right? We were
Mhm.
just saying that they like to make everything complicated and confusing. So they have different components of the fee. One is the basic fee, which is 460, and I'm only talking about pre-April 1st. Post-April 1st, the fees is increasing.
Okay.
So right now it's 460, and then you have to pay an additional fee of 750 or 1500, depending on the size of your company. If
Mhm.
you're more than 25 or more, then you pay 1500. If you're 25 or less, so if you're more than 25, you pay 1500. If you're 25 or less, you pay 750. So that element of the fee uh, is there's an exception, or is waived if you are working for a company that is a higher secondary education, so a university, then you don't have
Mhm.
to pay that 750, 1500. The rest of the fee you have to pay. So salary requirements, though, she's asking, I'm sorry, it's not about the fee that she's paying to USCIS. She's
Yes.
asking about salary requirements. So the salary requirements, there are two ways of deciding the salary. One is you can use a private survey, and I know
Mhm.
non-profit salaries usually come out a little less than for-profit salaries if you use a private survey. When you're using a private survey, make sure that they're following the correct methodology. They're using the mean rather than the average, and the methodology is published, so you can send that to USCIS. But generally,
Mhm.
most people will just use the salary from the Department of Labor website, which is the FLCA data. Uh, if you go to FLCA data, if you Google it,
Mhm.
you can just put in your where you're working and the county, etc., and your job title, and then it gives you four wages: level one, level two, level three, level four. And then, depending on how much experience you have, you will decide the wage level that you have to use. Generally, we
Mhm.
suggest that for people who are not freshers, that is, people who have worked before and have experience and have a master's degree, use level two's wages.
Okay.
uh, but it's possible if you're fresh out of school that you can use level one wages. So you can use that website, but that doesn't have a distinction between for profit and not for profit. So you might find that the salary is a little high. In that
Hmm.
case, then you can use a private survey as long as they're, following all the conditions that USCI sets for private surveys, and you can Google what those conditions are.
Okay. All right, Minnie, thank you so much for dropping in that question, and I hope that you got your answer. Stay with us. You may have more to ask with the attorney, and it's an Ask Me Anything session, friends, but definitely under the topic. So, whatever it is you want to ask about your H-1B, drop in your questions. And let's move ahead, Prashanthi. I have this question for you. What are the principal qualifications required for those applying for H-1B visa, and how can applicants make sure they fulfill these prerequisites?
Um, so, what are the principal? Can you repeat that, please, Nipasa? I know there are two
What are the
questions.
principal qualifications required for those applying for H-1B visa?
Okay. So going with the first one first, you have to show that the position is a specialty occupation. That is, the position requires a bachelor's degree in a specific field.
Hmm.
Um, for example, if you're doing a software developer, then the person would require a bachelor's in computer science because that's the industry standard. So
Hmm.
when you have to look at what is the requirement for a particular job, then you have to look at the industry standard. That is, in general,
Hmm.
what do employers require? You can also look at, and USCIS does look at the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is a publication by the DOL, and that's available online, OOH. And there are a lot of jobs listed there, and they list what the educational qualifications are for a particular position. So you can certainly look at that. But so you have
Okay.
to have a bachelor's degree in a specific field, and the job should require a bachelor's degree in a specific field. Or if that is not the case, then you have to show that the job duties are complex enough, the complexity of the job duties, that a bachelor's degree is required in your particular situation, even
Hmm.
though it may not be required in other situations. I'm getting an echo. Are you getting that echo? If we can fix that.
No, not in my end.
Oh,
Is it very
yeah.
bad? Can you hear me, or is it just when you are speaking?
Only when I'm speaking and at certain. Let's see. Let's continue.
Okay.
So that's the requirement for specialty occupation for a H1, and also the requirement has to be that your company should have specialty occupation work available for you. They
Okay.
can't file a speculative job, saying that first they'll hire you, then they'll look for a job for you. So that's they have
Hmm.
to already have a requirement
A job.
for that kind of job. So those are, I
Hmm.
think, two of the main. And of course, if you're in the US, then the other common requirements apply for any status. Is you have to show that you are presently in status. Therefore you
Hmm.
have to show the I-94, etc.
Okay. And how can applicants ensure they fulfill these prerequisites?
By knowing what the prerequisites are, so that they can submit documents beforehand while they're filing the H1 itself, and not wait for an RFE. And because when there's an RFE,
Mhm.
usually they'll ask more questions than needed. So it becomes the chances of getting an approval definitely reduce if you get an RFE. So it's good to try and avoid that by uh, submitting these documents beforehand.
Okay. Okay. And talking about it, maybe what are the necessary documents and details required to compile an H-1B petition?
So in order to file a H-1B petition, of course, you have to submit the I-129 forms, the I-129 DC, the H supplement. These are three sets of forms that you need to submit, filled out, signed, filled out properly, and signed, if you have an attorney, by the attorney, and definitely by the employer. And you have to submit a labor certification approval. So you have to obtain a LCA approval before you file the H1. The
Hmm.
LCA basically has to be properly filled out as to whether you're exempt or not, H1B exempt or not. Um, so if you have, just to make it simple, if you have more people on a H1B, you may be H1B subject. If you're not, you might be exempt.
Okay.
And this is important because there are certain additional attestations that certain additional requirements before filing a
Hmm.
H1 if you're CAP subject, if you're H1B subject, sorry. Talking so much about CAP
Okay.
that I'm only thinking about CAP right now. But yeah, so file the LCA properly, get it approved. The LCA also mentions your work location, and if you're working for a third
Hmm.
party entity, mentions that information as well. So
Right.
that's the LCA has to be submitted. Educational credentials have to be submitted to show that you qualify for the specialty occupation, like we just discussed what a specialty
Hmm.
occupation is. So you have to submit your bachelor's degree and the transcripts to show that you have taken courses related to your job. If
Yes.
required, an evaluation. If you have a foreign degree, then might make sense to submit an educational evaluation from a
Hmm.
evaluation company, attesting to the fact that you have the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in the US as well. They equate your foreign degree to a US degree. In
Hmm.
addition to that, if you have to submit a passport copy, and the passport has to be valid, not expired. And if you are in the country, then as I said, proof of status. So your previous I-797 approvals that you might have received from USCIS, your latest I-94 approval that you can get by going to their website and printing it out. So these are some of the documents that you need, and of course a petitioner letter, a letter showing how you qualify for the H1.
Hmm.
That's prepared by the company usually, and there's some information about the company, some information about the job in there, your job description, all that is in the petitioner letter. In addition to that, you also have to submit documentation from the company, maybe their tax
Okay.
return, proof that they're doing business, maybe contracts, anything to show volume of business, tax returns, so information like that. So that I think that,
Activeness.
yeah, activities, yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's list of documents.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that. I think it's a very important question, and I hope that folks out there have noted it down. So, yes, thank you so much, all you folks, for dropping in your questions. Hi to Fatum, Neha S, Meena Michael, Seema Singh, Pavan Kumar, Benazir, Emma Morley. Keep writing to us. We will take your questions. Stick with us, all right? And let's move on with another question I got, and that is what is the significance of the role played by the employer, sponsoring the H-1B application, and what obligations do they shoulder?
So they are the ones to sponsor the H1B. Without an employer and without a valid job offer, you cannot file a H1B petition. You cannot self petition. It has to be petitioned by the employer. And because of that, unfortunately, it gives them a lot of power over you, because
Hmm.
they can decide whether they want to file it or not. They can withdraw it even if, even without your consent. Um, so the effect on you is huge, because you will then lose status if your H1B is withdrawn, right? So they
Hmm.
have a lot of power over you, and this is something that USCIS has looked into, and therefore they've added the 60-day grace period rule, which gives beneficiaries some respite, because if the employer has the right to hire or fire them at the moment's notice, then they fall out of status, and then they have to leave the country and leave everything, their family and their house, and whatever they have established for themselves here. So the USCIS has given them a 60 days period to find another employer. So that's in a way empowering them, to a certain extent, uh, you know uh, and taking away some of the power that the employers have over them. So evening things out a little bit. I wish there was more that they would do, but that's at least something. So employer has all powers over the employer to file the petition, but employer has some obligations as well. They are obligated to pay the prevailing wage. They have to, again, not to the benefit of the beneficiary, but they have to withdraw the H1 if the beneficiary is no longer working for them, or if they have fired them or laid them off. If they've laid them off and they continue to keep them on the job, then they have to pay them, whether they have worked for them or not.
Hmm.
A bench pay as it's called. They are obligated to maintain documents. They have to maintain the public access file in which they have to place the LCA, the posting. They have to post the LCA with reference to the wages, what they're paying the employee, so that the other employees can look at it, just so that they know it's a fair wage when comparison with what they're paying the other employees. So they have to maintain the public access file. They have to, do the I-9 before they start working. So there are some obligations that the employer has. They have to notify USCIS and, in some instances, file amendments if there's any changes to the work. So if they're moving
Okay.
work location, they definitely have to file an amended petition because they'll have to pay a new wage because the wage depends on the place of employment. It's just
Okay.
these are, I think, some of the obligations that employers have, and this is the role that they play in a H1. It's an oversized, outsized role. Uh, they're the only ones that play a role, pretty much, in in a H1B petition.
Okay. 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 All right. Thank you for answering that, Prashanthi. And I think we should move to one of the chat questions right now. This one is from Fatum Hajara on YouTube. How does an employer determine if the H-1B petition is cap subject or cap exempt?
So then you have to know what is the law with reference to cap, who is cap exempt, right? So
Yes.
a person who has been counted towards the H1B before, that means a person who has received a H1B approval before, is cap
Mhm.
exempt, of course. So each time you file a petition, you file an extension, a transfer, or if you've left the country and you've changed status and you want to move back to H1, you're cap exempt. Now it's controversial as to, within that, um, whether if you filed a H1B approval and if you didn't work, are you still cap exempt?
Mhm.
USCIS keeps changing its interpretation of this. Um, if you have never come into the country on your H1, are you still cap exempt? If you have never received a visa at the consulate, are you still cap exempt? Um, if it's been more than 6 years since you've worked on a H1, are you still cap exempt? So these are some uh, gray areas. But right now, I think USCIS is interpreting this very liberally. So we are using the most liberal interpretation possible
Mhm.
right now and filing cap exempt petitions and being successful. So let's see what the future holds. But as of now, yes, if any of this is true, then you would be cap exempt. Also, more importantly, if you work for a cap exempt organization, then you're cap exempt. A cap exempt organization is a um, governmental research organization is cap exempt. A institution of higher education is cap exempt. A non-profit that is associated with an institution of higher education is cap exempt. So if you're a hospital, non-profit hospital, and you're associated with a teaching hospital, a university like for medical school, right?
Right.
Then you're cap
Mhm.
exempt. So these are some cap exempt organizations. So even if your end client is one of these organizations, you're still cap exempt. You don't have to be working for them directly, even if you're working as a contractor
Mm.
for one of these organizations through your H1B employer, you're still cap
Okay.
exempt. So these are a few things,
Mm.
situations in which you're cap exempt.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for taking that up. Thank you, Fatum Hajara, for that question. And let's move on. Let's move on to this one from Seema Singh on YouTube. How hard is it to transfer from H-1B cap exempt to the H-1B cap visa? I am currently a postdoc and want to move to industry.
So it's not hard. It's just that you have to register then in the lottery and you have to be picked. And that deadline is over for this year.
So,
Um, Next year, good luck with it because, well, if you, yeah, because you're saying that you worked for a cap exempt and now you may not be working for one. So yeah, so there's no special, no freebies, but you might qualify for the master's cap if you have a master's degree. So that gives
mhm,
you some additional leverage because you get counted in the lottery twice, one under the master's cap, and if you don't get picked, then under the regular cap. So you have to
right.
register. Your employer has to register, and then if you're picked, then you have to file. Filing the H1 then is easy enough, as long as you qualify, which I think you would. Um,
Mhm,
yeah. So and you have to file within 90 days. So the hardest part is getting picked in the lottery, and the rest is to
right.
find a competent attorney to help you file the H1. So that's about it.
Mhm, right, right. Thank you for answering that for Seema Singh on YouTube. And we have many more questions, so I think we'll follow with the questions. This one is from Benazir, also on YouTube. My passport will expire in February 2025. I am going for visa Dropbox in June 2024. Once I am back to US in July 2024, I am planning to renew my passport. Will there be anything that needs to be done after? And there's a
Not
follow-up
really.
saying, I think
Not
it's
really
still
because
continuing.
oh,
Okay.
continuing. Okay.
Uh, co- um, After continuing, after I get new passport. Will there be anything that needs to be done after I get a new passport? Can I get the update to I-94 by taking my new passport to Immigration Office CBP within USA, or should I go out of the country?
So you don't have to do any of those things. Once you have a visa in your passport, even after your passport expires, the visa doesn't expire. The only thing is you'll have to travel with both the passports, the old one and the new one, whenever you're traveling,
Hmm.
so that they can look at your visa. And of course, you have to carry your new passport as well. You don't have to update your I-94 in the passport. They're not doing that anymore. They're not stamping the passport anyway. Even if they were, you're carrying your old passport, so it's fine. But now the I-94s are all recorded online. So in
Hmm.
order to get your I-94, you would just uh, go to the I-94, the USCIS website for I-94s, put in your passport number, put in your old passport number, the one that you got your I-94 on. And then your I-94 will appear. You can just print it out. So you don't have to do anything really once you get your new passport,
Okay.
other than traveling with both passports when you're traveling.
Hmm. Okay. All right, Benazir, all the best. And Prashanthi, I got one question before we go on for a break, So, what avenues are open to individuals whose H-1B applications are not chosen in the lottery?
Right. So if you're not chosen in the lottery, you can either file a cap exempt case, like we discussed, right? So then you don't have to be registered in the lottery or chosen in the lottery. Um, that's one avenue, or you can look at other work visa avenues. The F1 OPT, CPT allows you to work under certain circumstances. You can try and get an O1 if you have extraordinary ability in your field of work. Get an employer to sponsor you for the O1. You can get a TN if you're from Canada, if you're a Canadian national citizen. You could get a E3 if you are an Australian national, which works the same way as a H1, but it's much easier and there's no cap for it. TN also has no cap. You could also ask your employer to file for an L1, L1B or an L1A, and again, there's no cap for this as long as you qualify as a multinational executive. So there's some avenues open for you. You have to just see whether they're a right fit for you or not.
Okay. Thank you for answering that, Prashanthi. And this is Prashanthi Reddy for you, attorney friends who has been practicing for over 25 years. And you can even directly mail her questions that you have for her and maybe get in touch with her if you need an attorney to go through your petition and filing. So her email is prashanthi at reddyesq.com. Note down these spellings, they are displayed on the screen. You can even note down her number, which is 212-354-1010. Call her in that number and also visit her website, readyesq.com. And Prashanthi will just go for a short break now. And definitely after the break, we will speak more about the H-1B success blueprint and get expert guidance from Prashanthi herself. So go out and maybe stretch your legs a little bit, but don't go too far away because we'll be right back, friends, to give out more secrets and talk more about the H-1B success. So don't go anywhere. It's Immigration and Jobs Talk Show.
Are you an IT consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry, exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us on the number 833-412-8472 or mail us at support@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that brief intermission we had. And of course, welcome right back to our webinar we're having today on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm Nipasa Pradhan, and today we have with us our guest, attorney Prashanthi Reddy. And she's been here speaking about the H-1B, filing of petition, and giving us expert guidance. We have been even taking up questions from the viewers out there, wherever you have joined us from, whether on uh, YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Keep dropping your questions. We are very happy to take them and answer them. So stay with us and let's get back to Prashanthi Reddy. Prashanthi. All right, so let's move on with some more questions then. We recently had COVID-19, I mean, throwback to 2021, 22. And, in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, are there any specific considerations or accommodations, being made for H-1B visa holders regarding travel restrictions or maybe even remote work or maybe other related issues you want to talk about today?
So there were many to talk about during the pandemic, and even until last year, there were many concessions given. Um, the consulates were backlogged. Um,
Mhm. Yes.
the USCIS gave extra time to respond to requests for further evidence.
Mhm.
Um, one silver lining was the green card numbers. More numbers became available for Indian nationals because the consulates were closed. That was the downside of it.
Mhm.
Um, but now I think, and yeah, very importantly, as you mentioned, remote work has become a thing to stay. And therefore, USCIS also has been recognizing remote work. They are no longer. I mean, since they themselves, most of their employees are working remotely, so they can't really object to us filing petitions for people who work remotely, right? So they've
Mhm.
gotten more used to the idea, and now, especially in the tech field, when we file H1s, most people are working out of their home. So it's
Mhm.
become a common occurrence to put the home address as the work location. So that's a big change since COVID. Uh,
Right.
And USCIS has become used to the idea that, they're posting requirements and you have to post at the place of your job location. So it's a little ridiculous to have people post it on their kitchen fridge. But that's what it is. That's what they're doing. And
Okay.
um, FDNS officers, the USCIS audit team that goes to audit H1s after they get approved,
Mhm.
some are often visiting people's homes to look at their workplace, and to look at
Mhm.
where they're on the, if they're working lying down on their beds, or they have a desk, or they don't have it. It's just ridiculous. But unfortunately, the laws remain the same, but the practice
Mhm.
has changed, so they're forced to do some of these things which don't make sense. But yeah, so I think those are some of the changes. USCIS has increased its fee.
Yes.
Uh, that might be inflation, but also because during the pandemic, since petitions were not filed, they were starved for income because it's an income based organization. They don't get funding from the government.
Mhm.
So that could be one reason that they've increased their fee also. Processing times have really, really skyrocketed um,
Yes.
due to COVID, and there's some lingering effect of it even now for EADs, H4s,
True.
green cards, etc. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think these are some of the effects that we're still seeing
Mhm.
as a result of COVID.
Right. And what about vaccinations? I mean, talking about it
Yeah, good
is.
point. Good point. I forgot that. Yeah. So when you're filing a green card now, it's compulsory that you have to be vaccinated for COVID. And if you're
Right.
not, then they send an RFE, a request for the evidence, and ask for your medicals again. And if you don't have the COVID vaccine in your
Mhm.
medicals, and along with the other vaccines that are required, smallpox, etc., whatever is required,
Right.
then they would deny your petition.
Mhm.
So that's an additional vaccine that we have to get now to get a green
Mhm.
card.
Okay. Right. So I hope that you have them checked at least if you're planning to move to the US, friends. And we spoke to Benazir and answered a question. She has a follow up, so let's take that up first and move on. What will be the I-94 expiry date shown online? Is it the passport expiry date or H-1B visa expiry date?
Good question. Most probably it'll be the passport expiry date. So please make a note of that. Don't presume that it's your H-1B I-797 expiry date or visa expiry date. Most
Hmm.
people fall into that trap because they don't go and check their I-94, and they
Hmm.
allow their I-94 to expire, and then they wake
Hmm.
up and then they try to go to CBP to get it corrected, and they won't correct it because
Hmm.
they have not made a mistake. They can only give the I-94 for the duration of the passport. Um, so you'll have to get it extended then once you come to the US, keeping in mind when your I-94 is expiring. It's a lot, I know.
Okay.
I mean, I often forget about twice I forgot about my son's passport expiry date. Um, because, you get it when you're a child, you get it instead of for 10 years, you get it for 5 years, right, in the US.
Yes.
And the day before I was traveling, I just checked it and I realized that it had expired. And once I was able to get it the same day, then last year I did the same thing happened, and I was not, so I had to postpone my travel.
Hmm.
Um, so imagine allowing at least you can correct it. If a passport expires, you can correct it, and nothing much would
Hmm.
happen other than you're not traveling. But if your I-94 expires, then your whole status and your stay in the US is jeopardized. So very
True.
important. I know it's easy to forget this date. It could be somewhere 3 years in the future. So, but
Mm.
please remember it and make sure you file for an extension at least 6 months ahead of. You can file a maximum of 6 months ahead of the expiry.
Okay. Thank you, Benazir. I think that question was very important to know. Thank you for posting that. Let's move on. I think let's take up Emma Morley. She's asking, what is the meaning of principal applicant's employment confirmation letter, original or copy, and end client letter from employer or petitioner, applicable for H1, H4, L1, individual, or even L2? Okay.
So, employment confirmation letter is pretty much, you might be referring to the, I don't know if you're referring to this in the context of a visa. So in that case, then a employment confirmation letter would just be a letter from your employer confirming that you are presently, they still have a job available for you, and the salary is blah blah blah, and this is your job description, this is your job title. So just a confirmation that they still have the job available for you, your
Yes.
work location, etc. That's it's just a simple letter. um,
Mm-hmm.
the end client letter is in the situation where you are working for a consulting company. Your work might be consulted out to a third party, which is an end client, in which
Mm-hmm.
case the consulate or even sometimes USCIS is asking for a confirmation from that end client that they have a job available for you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the end client letter. The letter usually has to have your name, that a confirmation that they have work available, work is confirmed for you, your job description, job title, because they want to also know what kind of work you're doing and whether the work that you're doing at the end client qualifies
Mm-hmm.
for a specialty occupation or not. So that's why they ask for that information.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for taking that up for Emma Morley. Now let's go to Mandira on YouTube. She's asking, what is master's H-1B cap and regular H-1B cap? If no luck with master's cap, is there a chance to get into regular H-1B cap immediately?
Yes, so that happens automatically. A H-1B um, cap numbers are divided into masters and people without a master's, regular cap. So the regular
Regular.
cap is 65,000, and then master's degree holders have 20,000 numbers available to them. So they get two bites at the apple. So they get to be in the master's cap lottery as well as in the regular cap lottery. So it happens
Mhm.
automatically. So you first get, if you're a master's degree holder, provided that you have a US master's degree and provided you have a master's degree from a not-for-profit um, private organization or a public organization. So these are the
Mhm.
requirements, and that your university is accredited by the
Okay.
relevant accrediting organizations. Provided all this happens and it's good, then you qualify for a master's cap. And so what will happen is you will first get put into the lottery for the master's cap, and then if you don't get picked, you're automatically put into the lottery for the bachelor's cap. So you get two picks at the lottery, and if you get picked, then you know what happens, and if you don't, you know what happens. So that's the process for the uh, cap.
Cap. Okay. Thank you, Mandira. Well, Benazir is still with us, so she has a follow-up again. And this one, what do I do if it's a passport expiry date on I-94? How to extend the I-94 within the country?
You have to file for an extension with USCIS. If it's a H1, then your employer has to file for a H1 extension. So it's not just the I-94. It's a H1 extension if you are on a H1. I think, which she previously said. I think that she was, but uh, so you have to file an extension with USCIS.
Okay, Benazir. All right, then let's take up this one from Ramesh Gajula. Ramesh Gajula is asking, what is total fee for H-1B filing? Hmm.
So as I said, there's separate fees. It's right now it's 460, which everyone has to pay. There's an additional $500 if it's not an extension, and then you have to pay additional 750 or 1500 depending on the size of your company. And then as of April 1st, you might have to pay an additional 600 if your company has over 25 employees. It's complicated, right? So you just have to add all this up. So it's about 1700 to 2500 which is what the USCIS
Okay.
is. It's a range.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you to Ramesh Kachula. I hope you got your answer then. And yeah, let's take up Rahul Das. This one is on YouTube again. I am under H-1B cap exempt, a non-profit employer. Unfortunately, our company has been acquired by a non-cap exempt for-profit organization. Will the H-1B transfer still be possible?
No, then you're subject to the cap unless you worked for uh, a not a profit organization before. Then you'd be cap exempt. Otherwise, you are cap subject. So I hope that you filed your lottery, your registration this
Mhm.
week or last week rather.
Okay, Rahul. Yeah, I hope so also. Let's go with Ashwin now. This one is on YouTube again. What are the key differences between F1 OPT and CPT employment that applicants should be aware of during H-1B cap filings?
Um, Not much. Let me see. So, if you're on an F1 and if you file for a change of status to a H1, you continue to remain in your F1 status until your H1 gets approved, and you
Mhm,
have to continue to maintain your status until your H1B gets approved or October 1st, whichever is later, because that's the start
mhm,
date for cap filings. You were filing in advance, but you can only have a start date of October 1st or later. So you have to maintain status. If you're not able to, then you have to see if you are under the cap gap rule. Cap gap rule is basically says that um, if you were in status as of the time of filing your H1, then you continue to be in status until October 1st. So that's with reference to change of status, and so there's no difference with the whether you're on OPT or CPT with reference to change of status or cap gap. But there could be
okay,
one difference, which is maintenance of status. So when you're filing a change of status, the USCIS will ask whether you maintain status or not. And so on a CPT, there are different questions asked about maintenance of status. The type of
mhm,
documents asked are different, and for an OPT, the type of documents that are asked are different. On an OPT, they want to make sure that you're working in the field that you did your master's or bachelor's in, and they want to also make sure that you worked in OPT, whether it be STEM OPT or post completion OPT, that you met the requirements of the OPT, that you worked for the minimum period of time, and if it was STEM, that you worked uh, for money, and if it is non STEM, that you at least worked as a non paid intern. For CPT, they want to make sure that the school required the CPT, and especially if you took a day one CPT, then there are even more questions asked. That means if you took a CPT on the day one of your master's or bachelor's, then they'll ask even more questions as to why you needed to take CPT as soon as you started, because a lot of individuals, in order to work, do a master's degree instead of in order to study. So they do a
mhm,
master's degree and they take a day one CPT and continue to work. And often I don't blame them because this is how the system is. If you don't get picked in the lottery, then you're not able to work and you might lose your job, etc., etc. So anyway, that's a different story for a different day. But uh, yeah, so if you're on a CPT, then they might ask you questions as to how the CPT is connected to the course that you're taking, asking the school to show what is the connection, asking the school
asking the
to
school to.
show why CPT was required. What is it part of the curriculum? So they ask a lot of questions. So that's why, from the point of view, if you get an RFE, there could be some difference between OPT and CPT. Also, if you've used CPT um, for a year, then it could be that you will not be eligible for that 1 year of OPT.
PT. Mhm.
So that's something to keep
So
in
that's
mind also.
something to keep in mind also. Okay. Thank you, Ashwin, for that question. And thank you, Prashanthi, for taking that up. Let's move on with these from the viewers itself today. And this one is from Suraj Agarwal. What does it mean for an H-1B visa petition to be subject to the annual cap? Are there certain employers or positions that are exempt from the H-1B cap? We took this.
We covered it. Should we cover it
Yeah.
again? So
We've
we've covered it. Okay.
So, Suraj, we spoke about this earlier in this webinar. Don't worry, it's going to be posted permanently. You can definitely rewind even now. So go back and watch it, please. Then we got this one from Ella Garcia. I've been trying for weeks to get an H-1B visa stamping in Mumbai for December. However, each time I log in, no slots are available. If I log in repeatedly or check locations within the same login, and it's continuing. I get locked out for 24 hours. Any success stories or tips for securing an appointment? Best times to check or consulate specific advice.
Um, no, I don't really have advice other than you have to just continue checking. But I know um, that it'll lock you out if you continuously check. Also, um, hopefully you are eligible for lockbox. So if it's an extension, uh, or if you've been on a different visa, then you could be eligible for um, Dropbox. So in which case then you don't need a uh, appointment, but you also need an appointment for Dropbox. So yeah, I don't know what advice to give you. I don't. In India, it's backlogged. So the only advice I could give you is maybe try Canada or Mexico for an appointment and see if that works. Especially if you're in the US, you should be. Is this person in the US or in India?
Mm,
Doesn't say, right?
has not mentioned it. Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, if you're in the US, then that would be the advice. Go to a country that is has availability. Otherwise, you just have to keep trying your luck.
Okay. So, okay, he's asking about visa stamping in Mumbai, so he must be in Mumbai.
In Mumbai, then yeah, yeah.
Hmm. All right. Um,
I mean, there are people who use consultants, but that's not legally allowed by the consulate. Um, but unfortunately, it also takes up a lot of these numbers. What these consultants do is they go online and block appointments and then they sell them. And so, genuine people
okay.
who need appointments, they're not available. And the consulate has been trying to identify this and to stop it, but I don't think they've been completely successful.
Okay. Well, Benazir is still with us and he's asking, can I leave the country and get the I-94 with the new expiry?
Can I leave the country and get? Yeah. So when you leave the country, instead of filing for an extension, if your
Mhm.
H-1B is valid for a certain period of time, then you can travel back with the new with your new passport and get the duration of the H1.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you
And,
for taking that
you
up.
know,
Well,
especially if you have a visa already stamped in your passport. Yeah, that's an easy way of doing it.
okay. Yes, you can do that, Benazir. Well, let's take this one from Teju. How can applicants leverage their STEM qualifications to strengthen their H-1B cap filings?
Leverage this temp. I mean, the only way you leverage your cap filing is if you're in the master's cap, right? So that's definitely an advantage. Being in STEM helps because a lot of STEM jobs are specialty occupations. It's easy to show that a bachelor's degree in a specific
Mm,
field is required if you're most probably if you're working in the STEM field, as opposed to working in liberal arts where it's more difficult to show specialty occupation. So you're already at an advantage if you're a STEM person.
mhm.
So
Okay,
you have to
Teju, all the
show
best.
you have to show that it's a specialty occupation. So you have to show that the job requires a bachelor's degree. And the way to show that is to show the complexity of your job, and you can put that out. Show that by giving a detailed job description, and then maybe each point in your each job description you can say what qualifies to for you to work, you know, to do that particular job. You could have a table where the job description is mentioned and your particular degree or the subject in your degree is mentioned to show how they correlate. So these are ways of, I guess, strengthening your H-1B cap petition and getting an
Okay.
approval.
Thank you for the tip, Prashanthi. Now, this one is from Vishnu on YouTube. I have my H-1B cap exempt approved. However, on the I-797, it's only valid for 1 year instead of 3 years, I think. Is that normal, or the employer will renew it every year?
It should, if your H-1B has been approved with a cap or not. It's, I mean, if it's capped, that means you're filing for the first time. So if USCI, if your petitioner has asked for 3 years, you will get 3 years. But maybe the petitioner did not ask for 3 years and asked for 1 year, and therefore you only got 1 year.
One.
So
Hmm.
then they'll have to renew it before the end of that 1 year.
Okay. So, Vishnu, you will have to ask your employer out there and make sure of the situation. All right, so moving on to Amjad Khan on YouTube. I would like to know my H-1B got selected under master's cap, though I haven't done any master's degree in US. Is
Wow.
is this the mistake from the employer during the cap filing or the mistake from the USCIS? Okay.
It's always mistake from the employer because USCIS doesn't look at it at this point of time. They don't look at your master's degree. But when you're filing your H1, they're going to look at the master's degree and see that it's not there, and then they will deny your petition. So
I
unfortunately, you
see.
won't be able to use this registration.
So there's this follow-up saying, is this the mistake from the USCIS lottery selection? I'm not sure anyone faced this situation, so wanted to know, is there any possibility to correct this issue in USCIS or not? Is this advised to proceed with the filing process?
Yes, many people face this situation. Employers, most employers do the registrations on their own, and therefore, they're often doing it in the last minute, and they don't cross check. They make mistakes. So it's a mistake basically. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, even though it's a mistake, if you have been selected in master's cap and you don't have a master's, you cannot proceed with filing your H1. That's just a fact.
Okay. Well, keep your fingers crossed, Amjad. I mean, hopefully you sort out the situation. And well, I got this one. This last one will take from the viewers out there. This is from Todd Rich. Why am I getting rejected when trying to transition from working in nonprofit organizations with an H1 visa to profit organizations?
There
Why am I
shouldn't
getting
be a
rejected?
reason for your rejection unless your H1 has not been filed properly, or your job has not been described properly, or your job is not a specialty occupation. But it also could be
Mhm,
just the USCIS, they're making a mistake,
mhm,
because if it's the same job, and if the company is a legit company and um, requires your kind of work, and they can show it, then it could just be
mhm,
USCIS is known for this kind of thing. They don't have uniformity in their processing. So while one case can get approved, the exact same case can get denied. So they have to work on making having uniformity in their decisions, so that their stakeholders can know what to expect when they file a petition.
mhm. Thank you, Todd Rich. And it's fantastic today. I mean, I think we could cover many questions. And if you still have more, keep them coming, friends. Keep commenting. We'll take them up and we will try to reply, give a response to you. And you can also contact me. You can email me directly uh, at nipa@highrightepeople.com, or call me in the number 408-335-6444. And of course, Prashanthi Reddy for you, friends. You can even email her at prashanthi@reddyesq.com. Visit her website at reddyesq.com, and even call her number 212-354-1010. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for today's very informative session. It was such a wonderful one to have you back again.
Thank you, Nipasa. See you again next week.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. Have a great
Bye.
day ahead, Prashanthi.
Bye.
And fantastic to all our viewers out there. Thank you so much for your patience and for joining us today. And with that, we have come to the end of today's webinar. Of course, a big thank you once again to our incredible guest, Prashanthi Reddy, for sharing her expertise with us once again. And thank you, viewers, for joining us. We hope you found today's discussion very valuable and informative. Remember, the H-1B success blueprint is just the beginning of your journey. So you have to just stay tuned with us to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon. And yes, we will keep having more insightful webinars like today, and we'll continue to explore the immigration and job related topics. So stay with us. And this is Nipasa Pradhan saying thank you for today and signing off for now. Bye bye.
Are you an IT consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us on the number 833-412-8472 or mail us at support@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.